All right, here we go. 112.
Peaches and
It's
cream.
the S, the L, the I, the M. One.
Let me tell you what
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Hey.
Feeling you.
You mentioned on the podcast for that you all are seeing for free women of color, correct? For the month?
we're doing free care navigation and gender marker change letter visits. So if they need help figuring out insurance coverage for anything like related to gender affirming care, and we can do that nationwide. So it doesn't have to be in like a state I'm licensed in. So it's like if they want some kind of surgery or hair removal and they want to know if like their insurance covers it, we can help them figure that out.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, just let me know if you post something like that. I would love to. I mean, I live in the area too, so it'd be great just to like share that bit, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Hey, aunties, I'm back. It's Dr. Crystal, the queer doc. What's brewing today?
Introducing Queer Doc.
Ask your aunties how to support an addict.
And say his name, George Floyd. So get your cups ready for Minoritea Report.
Hey, welcome to Minority Report. It's Auntie Kerel.
This is Auntie Dwan.
And AunTeas Jerrell.
And we have a fourth member that's back again for episode 112. And we have the queer doc, Dr. Crystal. Welcome back.
Thanks so much.
Or AKA Auntie Nico.
Auntie Nico!
How have you been since the last time we've seen you? Like, I'm trying to recall what episode that was. I probably should have looked that up before, but how have you been the last, what has it been, 4 or 5 months?
Wait, did we meet each other during the pandemic? Was that?
I know, like the pandemic is crazy, but yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure we did.
I've lost all sense of time.
Let me see here. I'm gonna look that up real quick. When was it? What episode? So community.
I feel like when I met you, we could still leave our house. So
it was episode 88. So that episode was October, and it was introduction of Auntie Nico. Ask your aunties, black men in prep, and vote for your life. Oh yeah. So it was like right. Oh, I remember.
Right back in the thick of things.
Yes.
That's right. I remember
all of the trauma has erased the fun memories for me. I'm so
sorry. I know that's right. Dear God. Yeah, right before the election. But anyway, so clearly we're doing a lot better post that election. And I'm loving your glasses again. She always has the greatest glasses, community. Like, you need to watch this on YouTube. Her style is just everything.
We had a whole conversation
and it's very
about
Seattle too.
We had a whole conversation that last episode, and I always forget her name, but she's a New York City icon, and she's like in her late 80s, early 90s.
Yes.
Ellie?
No, it starts with an I.
Iris, Irina,
yes.
Iris, yes.
And I think I put it in the YouTube episode now. Think about it. Yes. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It always gives me that kind of vibe.
She's cute as a button. Just give me like 40 more years. I'll catch up with her.
And we were going to have her on a few weeks ago, but she got the COVID shot and was feeling a little down. But then now, Auntie...
Iris. I thought you were going to have Iris on, and I was like, what the
You got so excited.
And coming to the stage is Iris!
Just me. It's just me. I'm much less exciting.
No, you're way more exciting, quite honestly.
Very exciting.
But yeah, like we were just saying, like, Jerrell, you got your second COVID, and how are you feeling, boo?
Just a little tired, and my internet is actually acting how I feel. So good luck with how much I hear from me today.
The internet acting crazy. So yeah, like I get mine tomorrow. So it's on a Friday before this episode comes out, and I'm happy it's on the weekend. So just in case I do feel a little down, I could just chill out, edit the episode on the couch or something, you know, watch a couple movies. but no, I'm excited to just finally see a light at the end of the tunnel, quite frankly. So
I feel that. I feel that. It was hard to work a 12-hour day today after that that damn shot. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
I was sitting there, I was like, just put me out. I can't do it. But she here. She made it. I'm ready for bed. But
yeah.
She's gonna be good in 14 days.
Which right. which manufacturer did you get? Pfizer? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. And then Crystal, do you have Pfizer as well?
I had Moderna.
Yeah, Moderna. Okay.
Yeah, that's who I have. So
it's just wild. Doesn't hurt as much. I can lift my arm. Like that's nice to have that mobility, which was different. And I didn't feel like I was tasting like pennies or copper in my mouth this time either. So
that's right. You said that. So. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. It's just wild because again, there's just not enough research about the virus itself, so what that means is, when it comes to like these vaccines, the despair, like the delta between what each individual experiences when they take the vaccine is so different, right? You can have some people that have absolutely no issues whatsoever, a little soreness because you had something stick like a good inch and a half into your meat, And well, I don't know about that.
Just a tip.
That doesn't sound pleasurable at all.
Look, I've been poked a few times, but exactly.
But not with meat, not in meat.
Oh, there we go.
Different
meat.
Scenario.
The booty meat.
But it's wild because, like, again, you don't know like how individuals are going to react to the virus, and let alone you don't know how people are going to react to getting the vaccine. So it's just,
I know how they're gonna react this summer to getting the vaccine. A plump ass fool. Like that's how people really gonna be acting.
That is if they already acting a fool before they got the vaccine. What's that, Crystal?
I was about to say, don't forget we do STI testing because that's going to be a thing again.
That part.
Sure is.
I do think it's a little problematic though that there's not enough conversation about the fact that the vaccine, and I'm going to say this very plainly, the vaccine does not prevent you from getting the virus. It does not prevent you from spreading the virus. It only prevents, hopefully, the symptoms you experience or lessens the symptoms that you experience. So everybody that's going out there thinking, oh, I got the vaccine, so I'm safe. No, you can still get the virus. Like, you still have to practice social distancing. You still have to wear a mask. You still have to do all of those things. So, these people that are out there that are thinking like, oh, I have the vaccine, and what they think a vaccine is, this is an inhibitor, an inhibitor prevention, which prevents the vaccine from taking over your immune system. But this isn't like, I think the vaccine that they're providing in China right now is where they're providing you actual dead cells that allow, which is like the flu vaccine, which again still mitigates the risk. But I just want people to know this vaccine does not prevent you from catching COVID or transmitting COVID. Let's be clear. So if you can act a fool if you want to, and don't blame it on the manufacturers when you come down with the virus, because it's not the manufacturer, it's you, boo.
That's true. And the numbers too. Like, you got to make sure that like people are actually getting it in order for it to truly work in the way that they intend for it to work.
That part.
If people are holding out, being like, I'm not getting the virus, well, guess what? That's just another host for it to just even live and thrive and stick around even longer. So it's free. Get poked, bitch. Just get it over with, Like, and a few of you have learned how to wait 14 days before, so you can get a shot and wait your 14 days just like you had to before.
What are you about to say, Crystal?
No, I was just gonna say, like, definitely, you're still a potential vector for transmission even after vaccination. Right now they kind of say like up to 90 days. If you're asymptomatic, you won't transmit, but only up to 90 days after your vaccination. And then we don't have any data further out than that. So we can't say further out than that you won't.
So you saying we got a 90-day window though to act a plum fool?
As long as you don't have symptoms.
Right.
And there's so many strands of the virus, right? It is a rapidly mutating virus.
Yeah.
And so there are definitely strands that not only does the vaccine, like, you would still potentially get, with any exposure, get COVID, but you just wouldn't have symptoms, right? Mm-hmm. But with the strands that aren't responding to the vaccine, the variants, you potentially would have a full-blown case of COVID, right? And that's the one we're watching, right, from Brazil. They're having such a hard time because they have a really virulent strand that is.
I saw today they released that the Pfizer vaccine, at least against the South African variant, seems to be holding up quite well, and also that the vaccine is working for those 12 to 15 years old. So at least now we're starting to get that younger population, given the option to get the vaccine. And this is how I can concluded my vaccination. I said, if all these rich people paying all these millions of dollars to have pop-up VIP COVID sites and all these rich white ladies getting poked, my ass getting poked because you ain't about to leave my ass out here. You ain't leaving me behind.
And just like, because folks are about to act a fool, right? If you haven't gotten your HPV vaccine because you're in that age range that, like, we didn't get vaccinated as we were kids. So if you're in your mid 30s, typically, or a little bit older, you weren't vaccinated as a kid, now would be a great time to get that HPV vaccine in before you, like, go expose your bits to human papillomavirus.
Not expose the bits. Ooh,
expose all the bits. No, that's a good statement, because that's one advantage of having an LGBTQ doctor, that maybe if you are part of the community, maybe straight doctors aren't maybe as hip to or want to provide that. Because I think at first, when they first created that vaccine, they were saying this, you got to get it before a certain age and things like that. But now within especially our communities, just get it just in case shit.
Well, it's FDA approved up to 45 now. So they expanded that age range significantly from that under 26 when it was first produced. And then insurance companies have followed. So a lot of insurance companies will cover it now up to age 45.
Oh, damn. I got mine before they covered it. Shit. Somebody owe me some money.
Right?
Look, you might get some money back in that Biden relief package. Who knows?
Yes. So go do it. And I totally have had patients vaccinated over the age of 45. They're just not going to get insurance coverage for it. Right. So we're going to have to find ways to make it affordable. But
what else should people be on the lookout before they act a plum fool this summer?
Well, get tested. Right? Get tested. Like, know your status before you go out spreading your status.
Ooh, say that again. No, that's right. Well, community, we said we're going to have Crystal on whenever we just felt like it, whenever she felt like she wanted to come on. So, question for you: like, we know we just celebrated last week Transgender Day of Visibility, and there's a lot of bills, unfortunately, right now that are trying to be passed, whether it be trying to ban our trans brothers and sisters and non-binary family from sports, from getting medical care, etc. But specifically within the medical care, say something does get passed and they live in a state or a city that they can't get the medical care they need. What are their options now? What should they do? What are their next steps?
Yeah, I think always, for all of our community, no matter your gender identity, if you have the energy, if you have the time, if you have the resources, writing your legislatures, right? These things are getting passed in state house and senates. And so you need to write your state representative and ask them not to vote for this, ask your governor not to vote for this, be active in advocacy, step one. And step two, if you have been somewhere it's passed and you're losing access, like we're really worried is going to happen in Arkansas for our youth right now. you would still be able to travel outside of your state into another state to get care. And so, it's not like they're going to stop you at the state border and, take your medicines that you got somewhere else away from you. Hopefully, I mean, Texas might start doing something like that because Texas.
Fucking hate Texas.
They be doing the most. Always doing the most.
So much.
But yeah, it would really be trying to seek care, as close as you can, but just outside of your state border, which obviously isn't going to be accessible for most folks. Like travel costs, all of that time off work, if they even have access to travel. And so that's really super concerning.
Mm-hmm.
How does telemedicine work now, especially with COVID? Has COVID allowed telemedicine to expand rapidly, just like the Zooms and everything like that? Now, so much technology has helped us. Is telemedicine one area where this is going to be helpful?
In some ways, like telemedicine has expanded significantly with COVID, for certain. Like we used to not be able to prescribe testosterone legally without at least meeting a patient in person first once. Same thing with addiction medicines, which I think we might talk about later. And that legislation happened in 2008, and the DEA was supposed to create an exception to it, and never did. Here we are, like I'm bad at math. How many years later? 12 years later, and they haven't done it.
13 years later.
And COVID happened, and the federal government was like, never mind, you can just prescribe. It's fine. Don't worry about that law we passed a while ago. So that helped a lot. But unfortunately, every medical provider has to be licensed in the physical location of the patient they're seeing. So like to see folks in Arkansas, I would have to have an Arkansas license, and all of the Arkansas prescribing laws would still like be in place for that patient. So it's not like this magic bullet where, they could see me. And it's really interesting how you choose to verify your patient's physical location.
Right.
Not that I am suggesting anything shady at all for folks in Arkansas. If you're listening, Arkansas, I'm not suggesting anything shady about where you tell your doctor you are when you see them for your telemedicine visit. But typically, like, I just ask where they are. I'm not like pulling an IP address to see. And honestly, IP addresses typically have like a 50-mile radius. So if anyone's close to a state border, you might get the wrong ping anyways.
Right.
Or they could pop a VPN in that bitch and then be in
that
Britain.
Part.
Like, I can't watch RuPaul because my VPN stopped working, and I don't know what happened in UK, so don't tell me.
Oh, man, I haven't watched this whole season of UK, but that is true.
I don't watch, so you're safe over here.
But yeah, so definitely that like physical location verification is a part of what I have to legally do as part of my job. But the way I do it is I ask you where you physically are. And we do ask for a copy of people's IDs, but like so often your ID isn't in the state you're in anymore, or your address. So like I don't base it off that address.
Right.
That's me.
You still haven't gotten that replaced.
Girl, let me tell you, Washington wants me to get my Minnesota driver's record and pay all this money out the ass. No.
Not today.
They're doing the most. They're doing the most. No. And right now, to even get an appointment with the DMV, they only open it up on the first of the month. And then you have to go online to make an appointment. They can kiss these cheeks.
They would be.
So you gotta renew your license when you go back home to visit your family.
Sure do. My sister work at the DMV, so I'm in the express.
There
lane.
we go.
And look, she's getting them glamour shots.
Look, I take 47. Thank you very much. Okay, look.
Where's my fan at? Where's my Beyonce fan? I know that's right.
Amazing. I know when I lived in Columbus, or when I lived in Chicago, I kept my Ohio license only because I didn't want to have to pay all those fines for my car. And I own property in Ohio. So I felt like, you know, I was cheating the system, but you know, technically, you know, the home that I own versus the home that I rent in were in two different states. So it's like I was getting by, but you know, when she moved to New York, that was all a wrap. So
look, I just moved here 2 weeks ago for the last 3 years. So I got my
Right.
I got
Is
my
it
spiel
cheating
ready.
the system when the system is like totally set up against us? Like,
yeah,
I
100%.
That part.
yeah,
don't make no
right?
sense.
Like traffic violations, who do those help and who do they hurt?
Say
I mean,
say a word tonight.
and depending on who you are, like the rules of whatever your state do and do not apply to you. So, you know, where's the gray line?
Yeah,
I know that's right. Well, since last time we talked to you as well, we have a new administration. Are there new laws that you would like to see this administration pass that would help you or to help those that you take care of? What is like on your top of your bucket list?
the top of my bucket list is like fixing that telemedicine regulation so that it is so much more accessible.
Gotcha.
You know, that 2008 Ryan Haight Act that really prevents the prescribing of controlled substances without an in-person exam first is so limiting both for people with mental health disorders, substance use disorders, and our transmasculine folks or folks who are gender diverse, and want to take
and maybe divorced.
and maybe divorced. You know, fixing that with something more permanent than the current waiver we have is actually up this month. So after April, we're not actually sure what's going to happen at the end of this month, if they're going to extend it or what. And so that needs to be fixed permanently because that's like all of our most vulnerable folks who we can't get care access for. That's my biggest bucket list, my biggest ask, you know, and then like equity for everyone in any minority group would just be like icing on the cake. You know, I think visibility is great. Like Trans Visibility Day is great. But like you can keep your visibility if you just give everyone equal rights. We don't need it. So.
That is so true. That is so true. Yeah. So I'm trying to think how to frame this question without making this human being upset with me, because I know they listen, but just had a conversation within the medical field. And this may be something that I was maybe ignorant to not know exactly that it was going on. But say you're admitted to the hospital and a lot of hospitals still just have male or female. And this person was just saying in his role, and I'm trying to be careful not to help them out, in his role, especially if it's a quote unquote female, in whatever that means, they have to do pregnancy tests before they do surgeries and things like that. And so at his job, they were having this dispute of what is technically male, what is technically female. And I didn't know that this was still like a thing on like a lot of these hospital charts, that there's not other options like this, and that there's not protocol to make your patient feel comfortable in that situation. So how do we fight for that, for like our trans brothers and sisters and non-binary and all that, to ensure that they're not in these hospital rooms and everything, hearing nurses and doctors fighting over what they are and aren't?
Yeah. I think again, it's like all like advocacy, like getting the legislation to support us, right? So getting the laws that are passed to support us is so important, right? Voting like everyone did in November for people in office who are going to support our rights. And then, when you run into that kind of form or paperwork at your own doctor's office, or when you're going to your visit, asking for them to change it, like pointing it out to them and saying like, this isn't inclusive. This needs to be updated, because right, for folks that aren't gender diverse, like maybe it doesn't feel like they're getting slighted, they're being unseen, they're feeling vulnerable to ask for something, ask to be seen, right? And so maybe there's like less emotional labor for folks that aren't being misgendered or left off the check boxes to start asking for that when they notice it places. So that would be a big one too, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, there's great templated forms. The National Center for LGBTQ Health Education has done some research on like forms that are best received, but still get the information we need for medical type stuff.
Right.
So they have a templated form. And for folks that work in the medical field, I'm like, you know, if you're trying to figure out if someone might be pregnant, like ask if they have a uterus. Just like go to the medical terminology and like ask for what you actually need. You don't need to know if I'm female. You need to know if there's a chance that I'm carrying a fetus. That's what you need to know. Also, I had to pay for a pregnancy test at my last doctor's visit after I said, I don't have sex in a way that could get me pregnant. And they're like, we still have to check just because like someone with a penis was in the room. I'm like, the penis wasn't near me. Like, I'm a fucking doctor. I know how you make a baby.
Right.
Like, I know how that works.
That's
like there has to be, the penis has to be like at least like, you know, close enough to drip. Right?
Dr. Nico, you are killing me with these visuals.
Just at least close enough to drip. Just exactly.
Yeah.
But like having that conversation, that was just it was like a check for myself, because I was like, okay, next time I am at the doctor, I'm going to be paying attention, because that's ridiculous to me. And then I was just trying to think of almost ways to ask, like you said, the questions that you need to know for the medical side. How can we do that? And then if you're on the medical side, and especially if you're part of the community, fight internally for your job so you don't have to have these uncomfortable conversations potentially in front of patients and things like that, you know?
Right. And it's so nice when it's just so nice when the other parts of our like quilt bags acronym fight for the rights of the folks that are being, you know, minimized. And because for us, when we're in that moment, when we're being like misgendered and mistreated, like, and we're sick and we're vulnerable, or even when we work in the field, like, this is my life that I live every day. So like, not only do I have to fight this in my life, I also then have to take that fight to my job. And most of the days I have the energy for it, but some days I'm like, I just fucking can't today. Like you don't pay me enough to do the emotional labor to fix all the problems wrong in this organization.
That's a true statement.
So yeah.
That's a very true statement.
So thank you for when you do that.
Absolutely.
I think it's important to also note that our healthcare, a couple points. One, this is just another example of how systems are set up that have bias baked into them. So this binary concept of gender and gender identity and gender expression is really reinforcing a heteronormative narrative, about, you know, what gender can look like. So that's number one. Number two, this is not just a medical industry conversation. This is a conversation that actually stems from insurance, because a lot of the reasons why these healthcare providers have to have this kind of documentation and they can't get to the quality care that they want to provide is because insurance companies are trying their best to mitigate risk and payout. And so there is so much paperwork and inherent within filling out that paperwork. That's a system, that's a process that has inherent bias that's baked into it. So it's not just, so for all those, you know, like patient advocacy folks, one of the companies that I work for does a lot of work with hospitals. So, you know, I'm seeing this, and, you know, we are, you know, doing our best to combat, you know, some of the inequities in the healthcare industry in terms of access to quality healthcare. But one of the things that we see all the time is that healthcare providers are beholden to, you know, either the laws that are within their state or the insurance companies that are driven by lobbyists, right, to mitigate risk. And within that process is all of this bias that the healthcare provider really can't do anything about. You know, so for all those folks that are out there that are patient advocates or just equity advocates, you know, just know that this is a multi-pronged approach, and, you know, you should be, you know, having conversations with your healthcare providers, but also for those of you that have access to folks that are in, you know, the insurance industry, particularly medical insurance industry, this is an opportunity for you to kind of get involved and pull, you know, on those allyship strings to make some meaningful change in this particular area.
Yeah, preach. That's so true. And we really, like, we can't get away from having to put something in that biological sex box. And it is so much about the Center for Medicaid and CMS, Center for Medicare Services, you know, so definitely Devon's like right on it there.
Those insurance lobbyists, it's like those NRA lobbyists. They are deep and strong and well funded, you know, so it's tough. It's tough, but it's that just because it's tough doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do.
It's so true. And medical providers forget this a lot of times. This is like just a side note for anyone who is. We can actually bill insurance for the time we spend fighting with insurance to get them to cover things for our patients. So there are hidden codes. There are hidden codes that you can use. I had an insurance company try to deny one of my kids' puberty blockers that they had approved a year and a half ago. And it took me like 8 hours of my time. And I was like, that's fine. I will just keep billing you this every time you tell me no, and I have to do this again.
Yep.
Fine. You can pay for your own stupidity. I'm fine.
That's right, man. Ooh, we got a lot of fighting to do in this little 18 months that Biden got the majority.
Look, and he's only been in office for 2 months.
Man, it's like, what else? It's like, get these boots ready. Get my Mary J. Blige boots ready.
Nice.
These bitches up.
The good news is we have hope. You know, the good news is that we've got Biden in office. He's been making some really great appointees, you know, to some critical positions. That's going to pave the way when we think about like representation at the highest levels of the land, you know, and we look at who he's nominated, you know, we've got some allies that can do some really great work, you know, and I know that it feels like he's been in office for a year, at least to me anyways. I don't know how, but it's like, I keep trying to remind myself that it was like the end of January, he's been in office. So it's like, okay, but you know, we just have hope this time around.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, the last 4 years was
hopeless.
Yes.
You asked me my other big wish list item would be like more Supreme Court justices. That would be like
what's old boy that needs to hurry up and retire
slide in there.
Scolari?
No, well, him. But I know there's a Democratic justice. I think he's 82, and they're trying to push him to retire so they can get, because Biden says he wants to put a black woman on the Supreme Court.
What if it was? What if? Never mind. Go ahead.
Oh Lord. But yeah, so they're
what
hoping.
If it was Anita Hill?
Oh girl, no, it's actually I posted on the minority page the other day, the one that a lot of folks are bringing up, because he just appointed her to the DC Circuit Court, which is like the second highest in the land, pretty much. So they're trying to get old boy, like, hey boy, like before this 2022 midterm, like boy, you might need to get up out of here, because she's only 50. So they're that's call it, if she does to 82, that's 3 decades of having a more diverse voice on the highest court in the land. So yeah, I mean, we got a lot to do, but before we get to Ask Your Aunties, I know you have a package that you wanted to open with us.
You know, I've never done an unboxing. This is like my first.
Really?
Really? Come through with the influencer vibes.
Right.
Oh my God. I'm probably going to drop everything like I did when I was showing it to you before.
That's okay.
But I don't typically like promote companies. Like I don't make money from them. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I want to be very clear. But this company does some pretty cool things. And so occasionally they send me promotional packages, and I do like to share what they do. They're called My One, and they make condoms in multiple different sizes. Okay. And so for so long, we kind of think of like condoms as almost one size fits all because they're so stretchy, you know, and maybe there's like a small, medium, and a Trojan, but that's like the only options you get. And so this company does make them, there's like over 64 possible sizes, I think. So they sent me this fun package for Measure Your Penis Day. You know that was a day.
Wait. I didn't know that was a day. I missed out. Where was I at?
Like, let me put that back on my calendar.
Shit, okay.
Measure.
Wait to line outside.
And if anyone needs help measuring, you know.
Right. So yes,
10 lengths, 9 widths, 60 sizes.
Yes. Okay. Oh my God, I was so close to remembering how many sizes there actually are. They sent me this little happy Measure a Penis Day.
Okay. Does it have the date? When was the date on that?
It just said, no, February 1st.
Oh, February 1st.
Okay.
Yes. Next time we won't miss it.
It would be in the time of Aquarius, of course. Makes sense.
Right before Valentine's Day. Get them new condoms.
So they make a little measuring thing that you can print off their website, but you have to measure the width and the length, right? Yes. And so, and they sent me like fruit to practice on. Right? I feel like I'm teaching. Okay. I feel like I'm teaching sex ed again. Whoever taught sex ed, raise your hand if you've taught kids how to put condoms on. Okay.
You know, I don't remember in sex ed the condom part of it.
They didn't do it when we were kids. They did not do it at my school.
They did it at mine.
Girl,
I don't remember the condom. All I remember is this one kid, and he got like suspended for this because he kept on talking about putting it in the butt and stuff like that. And like that was like his question every single time. We were maybe like 7th grade, 8th grade, I forget. But like that was this question every single time. He would have something related to the butt. And I wonder if he's gay now. I don't know. That's a good question. But right. But that's literally what I remember from sex ed is this kid always asking about butt stuff.
I remember Miss Anderson still teaching us, and especially in high school too, sex ed. Yeah,
that's amazing. I had health education in like 5th grade, and all I remember them talking about is periods, because I was like, "What the fuck is gonna happen to my body?" And I was like super stressed out. And then no one taught me how to put a condom on until I went to med school. Like officially taught me.
Really?
I had some practice before.
Right. It's like, you know.
She said, let the record state, okay?
Right. Seasoned grow a little bit beforehand, but that's okay.
Yes. But they sent me nice little fruits in their measure stick. And you actually have to measure the width. So you have to measure like around your cock.
Yeah.
And then you have to measure also the length of your cock. And then you'll get a number and a letter, and you use those to pick your size. But what I have heard from folks, is that, and by the way, you want to do it with an erect penis. So there's a little bit of playing before you have to do the measuring.
A little preparation.
Right.
A little preparation. But yeah, I've heard from folks that they do actually feel quite a bit more comfortable during sex. And so that is one of the reasons I like actually do say like, hey, check these out, try them out.
Absolutely.
Again, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So a couple episodes ago, we were talking about like penis sizes, how some people lie about their size. And we were talking about measuring. Where are you supposed to start the measuring of your penis?
Yeah, they tell you step by step here.
Let's read the steps.
They do say, find your length. Place the fit kit under your erection with the wide end towards your body. The length is the letter that you see above. And so this wide end is actually supposed to go up against the like
your taint?
Yes. Thank you. There you go.
Wait, not taint.
Wait, but because your balls are right there.
Are in the way.
Not your taint. Right. Sorry. Yeah, right at the top of your scrotum.
It's the base of your. It has to be the base of your penis.
Base of your penis, right where the scrotum and the base.
And underneath Like, because I always thought over the top is where you get the truth.
No, underneath,
Right.
underneath. And
Gotcha.
folks, I think I've totally had patients come to me and be like, my dick got smaller, doctor. What happened? It's a thing I've had like patients come to me worried about. And I think one of the things that commonly happens as we age is we all tend to get a little bit fluffier.
Yes.
And so we get a little more tissue around the base of the cock. And so then you do have less distance from the tip to the base just because we've gotten fluffier. That is not uncommon.
And the reverse is true. There are people who have lost weight and have noticed that their length is, if ever there was some incentive.
Let me update my profile real quick.
Right. That reverse never happens for me, but I have heard that it can happen for some people. I just buy a bigger one.
It's that part. It's funny. I'm just a natural. I like learning. And so I always get random shit on my YouTube recommendation. Like, oh, this is why the border of Russia and this country is this length and blah, blah, blah. But one that popped up yesterday, there's these guys that kind of always just like dive deeper into data. And the topic was penises are getting smaller. And they were looking at research from like the 60s and 70s compared to like now. Penises are getting smaller and less sperm. And so they were comparing like sperm collected from sperm banks then to now and testing the amount of sperm and things like that. And I was like, this is crazy. And they're thinking it's just because there's more plastics and BPAs and things like that that are causing our bodies and specifically our dicks to shrink. And I was like, this is fascinating. I didn't think I was ever going to be able to utilize that information, but look at this the next day.
Perfect.
Look at that. Thank you, YouTube.
Teach the people.
Right. But no, it's just interesting. But okay, what's the name of this site again? If y'all want to get some specialized condoms.
Yeah.
It's myonecondoms.com, MYONE condoms with an S.com.
Okay, now.
And definitely the reason I was interested in them is for transmasculine folks who have bottom growth, right? But it wouldn't fit in a traditional condom. And so often we're telling them to like cut the tip off of a glove, cut the finger off of a glove and use that. But that doesn't actually have a kind of an anchor at the base of it. So they have more options in this context, which I really appreciate what they're trying to do to make safety and fun more accessible.
Love that.
And by the way, I just dropped the link to the instructions for how to appropriately measure your penis size in the chat. So and they have diagrams. So you may
let me click on the diagrams.
I'm
have to share that with the community.
Exactly. We will post this on the Facebook community page. And if you haven't joined that community group, by the way, join it on Facebook. Thank you. It's a private page specifically for you all to interact.
And listen, since we've dedicated quite a bit of conversation to this, if you want to hook some brothers up, with a little, something, you guys figure that out. We'd be happy to continue the conversation.
We will be in communication.
They should sponsor you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that would be awesome.
I feel like you could do like shots. Like you could get your size and like do like little green screens with your cocks in their condoms and like give them little hats. You could give them little hats.
Do a little TikTok number.
Guess which auntie. We could guess which auntie.
Guess your auntie.
Love it.
That is too funny. Oh my God.
I know the community would be down for it, but I don't know. Like that's
like we share a lot of personal stuff.
You
just gonna have to say them.
I didn't put my balls in a wall at a bar before. Like there's this bar in Madison, and Milwaukee. You can get a free, I think it's a free shot or a free drink. And like they'll stamp your balls and then they'll take a photo and they'll put it on the wall at the bar. And so you walk in and there's like all
balls.
these stamped testicles all over the wall.
Here for in Chicago for a while there. I don't know. Obviously, COVID kind of changed everything. They were doing similar stuff where I forget what they called it. It was at Sofo Bar where they did similar things where literally they were taking pictures of everyone's junk, like it was like a drag queen, and it was like Friday nights. And if you wanted to get a Polaroid of your dick, obviously your face isn't in it, and they just took pictures of dicks. You're like, okay, then now.
Yeah, there's another bar in West Hollywood that does that something similar like that too. I think it's called like Dick Thursdays or something like that.
I missed that.
And it's like a competition, like literally, like you go and they take picture Polaroids of it, and then like by the end of the night, like people like vote on which dick they like the most.
Oh my god!
I feel like your dicks could host the show. You could like green screen them on,
Look,
like give them little mouths.
Give them lips, give them lips. Like
not Bruno, the aunties.
And then they just close enough to see the drip.
Just a little drippage. Just a little drippage.
Just a little drippage. Oh man. But I guess that's gonna lead us into Ask Your Aunties then. So what time is it? Ask your auntie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. I guess I have it this week. So it says, any suggestions on how to deal with someone who's fighting addiction? Any idea how long before you have to turn your back on someone you love who doesn't seem to want help? And when you try to help them, they sabotage you to everyone making you the bad guy, but occasionally tell you they need help. I'm emotionally exhausted and just want a good life with a good guy, no drugs involved.
Ooh, that's a change of tone for what we've been doing.
Yeah.
No.
That's taking a hard left.
Yes.
Literally.
That's when it's hooked.
Yeah. And I feel this kind of question probably has come up a lot during quarantine. Like the mental health part of it and addiction right now is where a lot of folks are kind of dealing with right now. So we'll ask Crystal first. Like what advice would you suggest?
Yeah. I think I think a lot of times I don't think of fighting addiction or fighting anything when it comes to health and diseases, right? I think so often in our culture, we want to make it a fight, which then means if I'm failing, I'm not strong enough. And as a healthcare provider, I just don't think that's how disease works, right? I don't think I'm someone fighting something. I think I'm a sick person who needs help, right? That's how I try to phrase things. And then that still doesn't get to the, that doesn't change the fact that addiction can cause a lot of harm to a lot of the folks around, anyone who's suffering with the disease of addiction. So I think there's no firm answer of like, how long do you wait? It's not like 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 days. It's like really based on where you are, I think, as an individual. Like, do you have the support you need to support this person without suffering yourself, without getting sicker yourself, without your mental health deteriorating, without your physical safety being put at risk? I think those are the questions we have to ask ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
And then, boundaries, like which is so hard, but it's like, I think it's totally okay to say like, I love you. I know this is a disease. I know you're sick. I want to help you. I'm here to help you when you're ready. And I can't give you any more money. You can't come home when you're high on this, that, or the other. I think all of those things are okay boundaries to have.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I've said this on the podcast before, but the very first person that I ever dated, well, the very first gay relationship that I ever had, the guy was seeing was actually like in his first year of sobriety. And I really didn't know much about, addiction or anything. Prior to that, I was 18 years old. I was still like a kid. Like I was literally still in high school, So once I got out of high school, and we were together for about like 6 months, and I was starting to be more involved. Um, I personally realized in that situation that I was actually enabling them to stay in not stay in a good spot, but I was enabling them to and in the sense of staying put and getting comfortable and not continuing their work and the journey that they need to do to keep progressing. And sometimes staying around and being the person can also be hurting them, because we may not know that we are a crutch at sometimes they're using us to stay in their situations too. So I think it's something you have to also kind of realize too, like, are you truly helping them, or is it something where they're kind of working you into whatever situation that they're currently going through that they need help on. And sometimes they don't know that they're doing it, but we have to sometimes, as the person giving that, that help, like Crystal said, you have to, make sure you're not getting dragged down and making sure that it's not negatively affecting you too.
What are you thinking, Dewan?
I agree with what everybody said. I personally have not dealt with a partner or someone really super close to me that's had an addiction in this kind of manner. So this is not coming from personal experience, but I think what I'd say is, in situations where you're dealing with someone that is battling something, whatever that is, whether that's addiction, mental health issues, personal identity issues, things of that nature, I think support comes in two ways, and it's really going to echo, kind of what both, Dr. Crystal and Jerrell have said. It's one, ensuring that you're not enabling whatever the behavior is, the negative behavior is around those kinds of things, right? And that because you don't want to contribute to their their um, uh, lack of healthy choices. I think the other thing is again, being aware of your own triggers, because much like the boundaries that Dr. Crystal talked about, there can be things that can trigger you, that can impede one's ability to communicate effectively, to have empathy, to be able to think clearly, etc. And so if their behavior is becoming a moment of trigger for you, that can cause emotional breakdown, psychological breakdown, mental breakdown, like all kinds of things that happen, and that can then further erode not only the relationship between you two, but also erode the boundaries that you two have set between you two in terms of how you navigate the relationship that you have, even in the potential chaos that exists between the disease of addiction or other kind of ailments that are difficult to control. So I think as someone who clearly has is emotionally invested in this other person, I would just ask you to think about what support do you need that allows you to be able to continue providing the support for your partner in whatever capacity that is. And sometimes saying, I can't be with you is a form of support.
I think what Dewana is saying is so important. Sorry, Kerel, I'm going to do that
fine.
thing where as a doctor, I just interrupt everyone.
No,
and talk
interrupt
over
me.
everyone.
That's good.
But yeah, I mean, I'm personally in recovery. I'll have been in recovery 8 years this summer. And I work in the field of addiction, and my life has been painted with addiction. My mom died from her alcoholism when I was 20. She left when I was really little. I was married to a straight cis het man at one point in my life, who was an alcoholic. And multiple of my partners after that definitely had substance use disorders as well. And so I think the thing DeJuan kind of hit the nail on the head with is like, get the support you need as a partner. And so that might look like going to Al-Anon. It might look like going to CODA for like codependency issues. It might look like going to a mental health therapist. It might look like going to a spiritual mentor or guide, like whatever that is you need to take care of yourself and to make sure you're staying safe in this relationship while you're trying to support this person. Have someone you trust who can tell you when you've maybe crossed those boundaries and crossed those lines and you're starting to experience harm yourself.
Yeah. I you all three nailed it. I guess just like the dealing part is just like, for me, I would just say provide the help that you can, whatever the resources you can, but also know when that line is, that boundary is for you. Because if you're saying I'm emotionally exhausted, it seems like that line has already been stepped over, and now it's starting to harm you. So if you've already laid out everything that you're able to, job well done on your end. And it's up to them now to say, hey, I've had enough for myself, that it's my decision now to go get help. Because a lot of times you can't force anyone to do anything they don't want to do. Like, and then if they feel like they've been forced, that might trigger them more to rebel even more. And, and just be like, oh, well, you can't tell me what to do. I don't want to go to rehab. I don't want to do this. So guess what? I'm going to go deeper in this because it's not my decision. So I'm going to show them that I can make my own decisions, And so for me, for this particular person that sent it, if you're emotionally exhausted, that shows me you're past that line. You might have to take yourself out the situation. As much as it's going to hurt, as much as it's going to be uncomfortable, because clearly you do love this person, but now it's starting to harm you more than it's necessarily that needs to be in this relationship. So it's not healthy for you. But for me, I, again, haven't been in a situation like this. I've had friends deal with addiction. We actually had a guest auntie last summer, Brandon from Chicago, that came and talked about his journey as well. So reach out potentially to others that you might know that have gone through this journey, that are in recovery, to see what other tools there are in the belt that you just might not know of. But again, you need to know your boundary. And if that boundary gets crossed, you got to take yourself out, because now it's harming yourself. And now you might have to go through something to deal with your addictions, whether that's codependency and things like that. So it's going to be tough.
Also, like everyone isn't built to be that type of support for someone. Like, you have to be a strong pillar. You have
know your ministry.
Right. And it may be something that you may not be able to handle, but at least doing the research as far as, well, then who can I go to that can be that person? That is still a form of help. You don't have to be the one doing all the work, but at least providing the resource for the person that you care about to get the help that they need. That is doing something, and that counts for something as well.
I did have two other thoughts that I thought it would be helpful to share. Survivor's guilt is real. A lot of us people feel like it's our job to fix. And if we're not able to fix, then we bear the burden of feeling like, of the guilt that's associated with, I wasn't able to do this, that, or the other, and taking that more as a personal attack on themselves. And that is a whole process to heal from. So I just want to call that out, that, that's a struggle that a lot of people like deal with. And it may take some work to work through that. So it's not as easy as just like saying, oh, I'm going to leave this relationship where, it's unhealthy for me, and I'm just going to get in another relationship that's going to be with a better person. Not taking the time to self-assess, to figure out, are you actually ready to move into a new space? Have you dealt with whatever trauma that has manifested itself as a result of being in that relationship? So that's point number one. Survivor's guilt is real, and it takes time to unpack that. And you may need some support around that. I think the other thing of it is I know it's very like cliche for, you know, especially like on these kind of advice things where, you know, it's like, okay, well, it's not working, that you can leave.
Right.
And there is truth to that. I think the thing that's important to know is that leaving doesn't always have to be absolute. Leaving can be a like, you know, a for now thing. So it's like, hey, you know, I can't be with you while you're like this. So while you're like this, I love you. I want to be with you, and I want to build something that's stronger together with both of us fully committed to whatever that is, you know, but if this is the you that you've committed to be and that you've resigned to be, and you're resistant to, you know, to getting help and support, you know, then I can't be with you right now. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's a forever decision. It doesn't mean that you have to divorce them. Doesn't mean you have to break up with them, but it could mean that you move out of the house. It could mean that you spend the night, the weekend, a week with, you know, a friend, a loved one, or whatever, to provide some physical distance between you and the other person. And so that you can reapproach the situation, perhaps with clearer heads, and really assess what the long-term strategy could be for the context of your relationship. So I just wanted to put those two kind of like points out there, because I feel like oftentimes I think we do a pretty damn good job of providing sound advice. But in situations like this, where it's just so complex, this isn't like his dick is too big for my booty hole.
Right.
It's not one of those kind of situations. You know, this is a little bit deeper, and I feel like we owe it to our community to provide, you know, as well-rounded of, you know, advice as we possibly can on both spectrums, how to deal with them, and then also how to protect and deal with you as an individual.
I was totally thinking the same thing. Like when, you know, Kerel said it might be time to go because you're emotionally exhausted. My first thought was like, and going doesn't have to be forever. It could just be for the weekend. You know, to give yourself some space and to get the support you need to go back and tackle the problem.
And we know that's a luxury, probably, because not everyone may have a family that could go wherever, you know. Maybe it's just literally taking the day to go take a walk in the damn park or something, you know, just get out of the environment for a second. Especially with COVID, like we've all been locked up in the house, you know, for the most part. So it's just like, maybe just walk the dog extra, whatever it may look like, go grocery shopping longer, whatever it may be, to get you some time to decompress. Because that emotional part, once you get that baggage, that Erykah Badu baggage, woo, it's hard to let go of it, because you feel like you have some ownership on that in a weird way, you know? It's just like, that's not your baggage for it right now. So, that's a deep one right there. But continue to send your questions to Ask Your Aunties for aya@minorityReport.com, or DM us. And we'll continue to try to support you however we can, whether it be resources that we place out there. But yeah, that's a deep one.
Online, folks can go to like AA, Smart Recovery, and Refuge and Recovery are 3 organizations that do support groups for folks fighting the disease of addiction or suffering from the disease of addiction. And there's usually resources for family and friends as well at those websites. FYI, Refuge and Recovery did have a recent scandal because the founder had some I think he sexually assaulted folks. I was going to say sexual misconduct, but that's like painting the picture brighter. Interestingly enough, though, historically, one of the founders of AA was known to be a womanizer back in the 40s and often had to have a keeper at AA conferences so he would behave. So it's tough, right? Because we want the people who really help folks to not have such horrible
their own stuff,
shit happening. But, you know, unfortunately, that's not always the case. It doesn't mean that the programs that they help create haven't helped lots of folks.
That's true. Before we get going even more here, I know, Dewan, it's been Arab American History Month, and I know you had
just
something you wanted to share.
So April is Arab History Month. And though we don't, on this podcast, at least for ourselves, we don't identify as part of the Arab community, we are certainly allies.
I'm
As
Blackanese, boo. I married one.
Right. You get an injection in some way. Or
Yes,
some
ma'am.
But no, it's, this is just an opportunity to, every time we have like these kinds of celebratory months, it's an opportunity for education and engagement and community building. And, I personally don't know a lot about Arab communities, although, I've been trying to do my work, and, part of that is, watching documentaries and videos and things of that nature to really give me an inside look into some of the, the complexities of their experience. And so, I wanted to just highlight a movie that I highly recommend. It's called Oriented, Oriented. It was made in 2015, and it follows the story of 3 gay Palestinian men who live in Tel Aviv, as they confront their sexual identities and national identities and the intersectionality that exists between that. So it's documentary style where they're following these folks, and you get to see the struggle of coming to terms with who you are and how that conflicts with a entire nation, and talk about systems of oppression, where it's very difficult for you to be who you are publicly. So highly recommended. Very raw and authentic and real, and just gives you a sense of the LGBTQ plus community outside of the confines of the United States. And my hope is that you'll enjoy it. So
yeah, I've seen that one actually. Corey and I watched that. Maybe can't remember if it was here in Dallas, but it is very, very good.
Yeah,
it's
some
amazing.
cuties.
Yeah, they are. I've seen it too. Yeah.
Oh man.
I
But
think this month
go
is
ahead.
also considered Black Women's History Month. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
on that?
April, yeah, it is. It
Mhm.
is. I know it's just interesting how so many of these months like overlap now. It's like everybody get a month, but hey, I'm here for it. Let's rep everybody.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely try to get some additional just nuggets throughout this month for both of those.
And we're doing, just to be like a business owner for a hot minute, at Queer Doc, we are doing some free services for POC women this month.
Awesome.
So yeah, check it out.
Awesome. And where can they find you?
Oh, queerdoc.com. Thanks for helping me be a better business owner.
Hey, I got you, boo. I got you. That's queerdoc, DOC.com. Have you all been watching the trial at all? I know.
I've been reading the news. I can't. It's triggering for me, and
It's
I know
triggering
that
for me
That
too.
part. That part.
For me, this reminds me of To Kill a Mockingbird with Samuel L. Jackson, and I remember vividly. That's the only movie I've ever walked out
To Kill a
on.
Mockingbird.
Is it a time to
you
kill?
mean the one with
No, To Kill a Mockingbird. Yeah.
No, the one with To Kill a Mockingbird is like the old one, right?
That's the.
Am I thinking? What is that? It's
Alexa.
Samuel L. Jackson, and he's like, yeah, I killed them. I hope they burn in hell.
That's
one.
hold on, I'm gonna look it up. It's
To Kill
a time to
Mockingbird
kill.
like,
A Time to Kill.
A Time to Kill. Okay,
So you said To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah. Well, she's dyslexic, so she mixes things up a little bit. But I'm just saying, like, not to go down this whole path of like what movie it was. I was like, oh damn, that triggered you. Yeah, it triggered me because I think the raw emotion of those testimonies is so relatable as a Black man. And it reminds me of like that movie. Like there were just certain things where like that was the movie that helped me to realize that I have a boundary that I have to protect myself. When I go to the movies, I go to the movies to escape, not to be triggered. So that's why, like, for me and like slave movies, I'm like, I'm done with them. I've seen enough. I've seen plenty in my life. I don't need to relive any more of that anymore. And this has the same kind, like to watch the trial has that same kind of triggering feel. But I've been keeping up with at least the write-ups in the news about like what's been going on, and glad that the captain of the police force kind of said, not kind of, he said, you know, he should not have been on that guy's neck for nearly as long. It's like, you know, 5 minutes, even 5 minutes was way too long. You know, so I'm glad that there's some of that going on, but I'm really curious to see how this thing is going to shake itself out.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Like I went and got a haircut today, and I hadn't watched it either, just because I was like, oh, I can't handle this at all. I'm either gonna be boo-hooing or mad as hell, and then boo-hooing again. I can't do it. But I say that because he was trying to have it on, and thank God the Wi-Fi was like acting up at the barbershop. But then I came home and I was like, okay, because he was telling me who was gonna testify today. And he was saying this a lot today, and it ended up being a lot of the paramedics and the captain of the firefighters and things like that. So I was like, you know what? Actually, I do want to hear what they're saying and how they're framing these questions. For a lot of the witnesses, I was like, I'm not going to be able to handle that. But I was like, I do want to see what these professionals are going to say to these questions. And it was interesting because, again, you just see how they're trying to, both sides are just trying to frame their story, and that's their job. But I'm glad to see that it doesn't feel like some of the folks involved, some of these witnesses, at least today, it didn't feel like they have been intimidated potentially by the unions of cops and the unions of this and things like that, that they were at least saying, matter of fact, no, he was not alive, and this and that, and no, he should not have been on his neck like that, and things like that. Because you've seen in other trials where they're scared to say what they saw, you know, and what the rules are and what the laws are and things like that. And at least today, for the most part, it felt like, okay, they're telling their truths. But I was like, I don't know if I could watch another day, because it just becomes all encompassing.
Yeah, that back blue mentality is real.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's cult like, and you know, or for anybody that's been part of a sorority, you know, or in any, you know, organized, you know, social kind of environment, you know, it's, you protect your own. And I think the unfortunate thing for us lay people, like people who are not in the political system, who are not in the legal system, who are not part of the police unions and understand the protocols and the systems that are in place, is that with a lot of these cases that we see, and this is one of the reasons why another one of the reasons why I don't watch these, is that, you know, we see right and wrong. We see objectively right or wrong. His knee was on this guy's neck for 9 minutes, okay? And that's just wrong. The problem of it is that the cases are not being tried according to that objective point of view.
Right.
It's being tried according to whatever charges that were brought against them, the burden of proof that is required in order to determine guilt versus not guilt versus innocence against those specific charges. And those charges are also driven by the policies that are in place, which determines legal actions versus illegal actions.
Yep.
And when you have all those things coming into play, the judge, the jury, whomever is deciding the fate, have to measure the evidence against that criteria.
Those parameters. That's
what's fucked up, because we as lay people don't know what's in the, you know, the blue book for, this particular police force,
right,
and the rules that they have to follow, you know.
And that was another good thing, that they did show a lot of those rules on the screen too, because they're like, here is what it says in this book, not chapter, but like whatever clause, XYZ. And I was like, thank you for showing that, because I want to read this shit verbatim. I don't want to summarize. I don't need the clip note. I want to read this for myself, so I could A, educate myself, and then B, conclude with my own eyes what that's saying and how you fucked that shit up and killed this man. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
But
Minneapolis is my home, and
I know, it's too real for me,
it's been really hard to, like while y'all were talking, I'm like wiping away tears.
I know.
Cause like I haven't been watching the trial, but I at least like will turn on the news, and of course you turn on the news, and then let's talk of the trial, and like I've seen the footage back then, and then seeing the footage again now just reopened up so much, and
oh, don't get me crying.
Seeing that man's body the way it was, it's just, I just don't understand how anybody can argue it at all, and it's like, it's hard when you see someone who represents a part of you and a part of your family and going through this, and it could be any of us, at the end of the day. And like just thinking about that alone too just makes all this just so much harder. And it being my home city too, my city is not the same that it was, like the crime has gone up like 260%. And it's also a bad there. And to still follow like the Minneapolis or the Minnesota news like on Facebook, and then I fucking read the comments, and to see so many people commenting on like Care 11 News Facebook posts about the trial, and then like trying to justify it. And I used to think so highly of Minneapolis, but I've said this plenty of times. Like, it wasn't until I moved to Seattle that I didn't realize, how racist that state is. It's very, very hidden. And from all of this, I just can't help but at the same time want it to be uncovered. But I'm so scared for everyone that I love back home. I think about the trial and both my home. And it's just, it's a lot.
I hear you. So, I mean, that's another situation. It's just like, protect your mental. However you can handle it. But if it's going to trigger stuff in you, read the clip notes. Don't get engulfed. Because I can see literally watching it today how you could get so engulfed in it, because like you said, it's personal. It's personal for a lot of the Black and brown communities, because it's stuff we've seen for centuries, for generations. And here's another high profile case, another high profile trial, and it's stirring up those same emotions. It's not even the first
high profile murder in Minnesota, too. It's
so it's a lot. But I don't know how long it's supposed to go for.
They're dismissing, or at least they're for the weekend, at least. Like, I know they won't be doing anything over the weekend. Gotcha. So like tomorrow afternoon they're adjourned for the weekend or something like that. But yeah.
Oh man.
I do think that in the midst of like these things that are happening, with the mass shootings that have happened in Atlanta, with the Asian women that lost their lives, due to this white terrorist, incidents like this harkens back to other incidents that we've seen played out on television, like Rock King. There is an emotional boiling point that's stewing. And, I think now is a time for allyship. Now is a time for, we of disenfranchised communities, call it LGBTQ+, call it, minority, people of color, whatever. We have carried the burden for as long as we've been on this, in this country. We've carried the burden of our own oppression and have also been tasked with educating our oppressors, and that's fucked up. And what I would encourage our listeners to do is continue to be an ally. And that means educate yourself. It means checking in with people who are part of a community that is experiencing trauma like this. And most importantly, figure out ways to use your privilege, whatever privilege, because we all have privilege. As a man, I have privilege, and as a gay man, I have discrimination, so it's not like, oh, this is only a white cisgender male thing to solve. Although y'all out there, y'all had a burden of it because it's coming from you. But I think that the message that I want to share in this is we have to be there for one another, just like the emotion that you're hearing raw on our episode today. A lot of people are suffering in silence, and but that they're still suffering. And it's really important for us to be reaching out. It's really important for us all to be figuring out how we can support one another. And then more importantly, it's important for us to figure out how we can use our own privilege, whatever privilege that we have, to help move the needle, particularly legislatively and through process, right? Because we can beat as many drums as we want and have as many, protests and signs and Facebook posts and all that. But if the laws aren't changing and the policies that are upholding these behaviors aren't changing, then we're not moving the needle. But most importantly, out of all of that, check in on your fellow man and woman, like check in on others that are in your circle to see how they're doing, and to offer, thank you, and offer your support, whatever support you are able to give.
Absolutely. Whew. Well, before we get out of here, we'll do a couple more lighthearted moments here. We haven't done the manager name game in a couple weeks. I'm debating if I'm going to give y'all 3 guesses.
We got to do 3. Okay. I'm sorry, but
And so for those that if this is your first episode, the manager name game, you need to go back and catch the episode where it's called, I forget, one of them is called Nasty Pig and Fubu. So it was maybe 6 weeks ago. Pig. And the conversation I had with my manager around Nasty Pig, et cetera, et cetera. So Jerrell and Dewan have been trying to figure out what my manager's name is. And at the end of the year, we're going to reveal this person's name. So, Jerrell, you have 3. Dewan, you have.
Okay. So I know for sure I said Aaron. And I think I said Sarah with no H.
I'm not going to look back at my notes. I haven't written it down, but if you double it up. I think
those 2. No. Those are the ones that I said before.
Right.
So I'm going to go with... Oh, no. I didn't say Sarah. Did you say Sarah, Dewan? I think I said Tiffany.
Yeah, I said Sarah and counted H and no H.
Yeah, and I said, because I think I said Tiffany. Anyways, I'm gonna go. And then I said with.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna go with like Elisa. For some reason, I think Lisa just sticks out to me. I'm also gonna go with Stacy.
I or Y.
I'm gonna
it's
go.
Phonetic. It's phonetic.
I'm going with the Y. I'm going with a Y. I'm Lisa, Stacy, and then I don't know. For some reason, I want to say like Barbara.
Okay, and where you have Dewan?
I'm gonna go with Michelle, Terry.
I or Y? Phonetic.
Because I'm not going down based on some semantics.
Right. We might somebody be like, once we get to like Rich 50.
It could be Terry, T-A-R-Y. R-R-Y. And I'm like, no, phonetics. Let's see. So Michelle, Terry, and Charlotte.
A community.
I missed this whole story, like who this person is, but I feel like her name's going in one of two directions. I'm sorry, I don't know this person's pronouns. Their name is going in one of two directions. And I feel like if I had to guess, it would be Karen or Candy. Like Karen or their
with a C or a K.
Phonetics.
So we don't know.
Word of the day.
Right. We don't know what his boss looks like. We don't have any clues around her age or anything. All we know is that she didn't know the symbol, and so he had to like
dance around
so
it.
Based off of that story, we're guessing the name.
Right? Karen doesn't know the symbol. Candy probably knows, so that was probably a bad guess. I thought maybe it was a fun conversation about Nasty Pig.
It was a funny conversation around Nasty Pig because I couldn't tell her that the name of the company was Nasty Pig, but she kept asking questions.
See, I feel like this is a person that is like a late baby boomer or like an early millennial, like on that cusp of like, you know, being like 40 to like 50 and some change or whatever. Like I feel like that, but I could be completely wrong because there are a bunch of, you know, like 20 and 30-year-olds that are just clueless about that life.
I'm not giving any more descriptions.
Her name, her name could be Shaniqua.
It sure could. But who do you think is going to guess right? Do you think it's going to be?
Would that be the gag?
We need to get the community in on it somehow. So let's get some wagering here.
Who's gonna catch it?
Dewan or Jerrell?
Yeah, you're right, because now you got me thinking. I've been saying nothing but white names, but now I need to start I gotta start mixing it up. I gotta stop saying white names.
And quite frankly, she could be like some, you know, some like you know, like part of the Latinx community. You know, like she could be like. She could be Filipino. Her name could be Tram. You know, so like
I ain't giving no more descriptions.
Once we get out of this binary concept of is she, because I think you and I both kind of land on the fact that she's white, she's old and white.
We did.
Especially by these names.
Because in my mind, I keep thinking of, what is an old white lady?
A Karen again. I keep thinking of a Karen.
Who wouldn't get it? Who wouldn't get it? Who wouldn't be about that life? Who would even ask the question, well, like, what is that logo? Like, 95%. Who would even go there?
I feel like all the straight people.
Because I do feel like
none of them know what it is. Like,
see, that's the thing.
How many straight folks do you know who are like, oh yeah, I picked up some Nasty Pig this weekend.
Right.
Like, no.
It's like, yeah, I got the new Nasty Pig underwear because they had that winter sale.
Yeah, right. They just they're clueless. Like,
it's so true.
I mean, some of the queer kids.
But she feels comfortable enough to ask though. I don't know, because that's not professional. It's not professional.
He's in Atlanta. But she's in Atlanta. Oh, honey, bless your heart.
But the company that he works for isn't based in Atlanta though. It's outside of Atlanta.
True.
So
I'm not giving any more.
That commute could be different.
What if she's from Spain? What if she's from Canada? What if she's from Canada?
Oh,
so y'all might start thinking of some names every week. And community too. While we have your attention, please. Can we have your attention, please? This weekend, this Saturday, April 10th at 8 p.m., we are having our wig party for our second anniversary of Minority Report. So the Zoom link, look for the Zoom link in all our social. It's coming. By the time this episode comes out, it'll be out. So we want to keep.
And that's 8 p.m. Eastern.
8 p.m., 5 p.m. Pacific. You know, if you want to get specific. Get your best wig.
Bring your wigs.
Or maybe your worst wig.
Get them fluffed.
I just bought 3 new wigs
last year.
That's the Sonic the Hedgehog wig, what took me out.
Took us all the way out. So we want to kiki with you. We'll be playing Truth or Drink. So get your drinks ready. You know, we know COVID regulations are starting to loosen up. So this might be one of them last big Zoom parties for a while, because I know y'all want to hit the bars now and the strip clubs and all that. So we know. So come kiki with us for our second anniversary this Saturday, April 10th at 8 p.m. Dr. Crystal, you are welcome back any damn time you want.
Thank you. I want to come back when your cocks green screen the show.
Yes, and it's just lips.
Absolutely.
And it's just like this.
Someone needs to have a mustache. Just a little mustache.
Could
Jerrell,
it be
you gotta
like
shave all that
pre-cum?
off.
Could it would be pre-cum that drips down and it just
Ooh.
goes this way.
Oh my
And you
God.
just lick it up. And on that note,
That's what it's gonna look like.
find Dr. Crystal at Queer Doc on social and her website. And we will see you next week. Wash your hands, wash your legs, wash your ass.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.